Welcome back. Today, as part of my ongoing journey to get better at chess, I'm going to try to solve some puzzles on chess.com. The last time I got here, I only made it to 2139. I say only because I try to, to get at least to 100 or a 50, but I didn't quite have enough time last time. I'm going to follow my checklist, but one of you recently suggested that I change my checklist based on a course that you had on Chessable. And I'm not sure I entirely understood everything, but one thing in it did make sense, and that was to count the material first before I start looking for checks, captures, and threats. And if I understood that part right, the idea was to find out if I'm going to be losing if I just, try to trade a piece or something. So that made sense to me. Like right here, I'm a piece down in this puzzle. The opponent has an extra knight, and it looks like they're going to be able to check me here. This pawn is pinned, and then I'm going to move, and they're going to win the rook, and I'm going to take the knight, and they're going to get the pawn, and then they're going to be even further ahead. But I think what I'm supposed to notice here is that my opponent is a piece ahead, so I'm not looking for a piece trade or just to go up one piece, because then we would be even, that I'm actually probably looking for mates. So I should be looking for mates, and here I think I found it. If I had followed my original checklist and looked for checks first, this check is protected by two pawns. My rook's cutting off these squares, my pawn's cutting off that one. It would force the king over, and then I would go down there and it would force the king up here. But that's not quite mate, is it? What about this? What if I check here first, and when the king moves over, then I check over here with the rook, and when they escape, I still don't have a follow-up. Okay, so maybe I don't have it. One capture that I do have is taking this pawn that would open up my other rook to this file, but I think in that case the opponent would still check me here. So going back to my original idea of checking, they're only legal. Ooh, that gets complicated. Yeah, right? If I check with the queen first, they move over, then I take this pawn. They could block with the knight, in which case I would take it with the pawn, maybe. I don't know. I do know that the person who commented suggesting the different method for solving puzzles, there were extra steps there that I didn't quite understand, like look for tactical motifs. I don't know what a tactical motif is, so I'm gonna, I'm looking for a way to force this king. This king looks like it's in a pretty uncomfortable position, and I've got to do something about that. I mean, I have other checks, but all of those look bad. This is the best looking check that I have. The one thing I didn't consider is when they move over, if I take this pawn, but then their queen is defending that square. So that's probably not a good idea. My problem is that once they get over here, I don't know how to stop that. Okay, so I check, they move over, and I have a couple of options here, like taking this pawn, but that forces them to where I don't want them to be. So I check them, they move over. I take this pawn with check from the rook. They have multiple options. They could get out of the way, they could block with the knight, and I don't know which one they would do. Alright, I paused the video for quite some time, and I tried and tried, but my problem, and it has been my problem for some time, is visualizing where all the pieces are going to be after the moves are made. Even when I draw the arrows, it's difficult for me, and I assume that it is for a bunch of you. I can picture a couple of moves in advance, and I don't need, to select all the squares to know that my rook is guarding that rank, but I do need the practice of picturing where that king's going to be and what it's going to do after I take that pawn. I think it has to go over here. But then once it does that, I don't have this check with the other rook, but I do have a check of moving the pawn forward, and I have to remember that my queen's going to be down there on f2. After this check, if the king moved over, I think I would have a mate because my queen's over there, but they could just take the pawn instead, and then I would take with my other pawn, and then I guess they would have to take with their knight, and then I would take with the queen, and they would have to go over there someplace, and then I would mate with the rook. I think I found a mate here, but I don't know if that's going to work or not. But if it does, it's because I just now realized that my f-pawn doesn't have to take that pawn to reveal a check. I can wait till their king is on g4, then move that pawn forward, the f-pawn. So that looks pretty complicated, but I'm going to try it, and I'm going to hope that I remember the right order. Okay, that was right. And I'm pretty sure the problem with this is that they get out of check and I can't do anything about it. So that's why I've decided to go here. And now when they go there, I'm going to push this pawn. And the thing I was having trouble seeing earlier is that my queen is going to be on f2, so if they just escape to that rank, I mate over there. Sorry, the file, the h file. And if they block with the pawn, I'm going to take. If they block with the knight, then I'll take with my queen, and they'll have to go over there, and I'll mate with the rook. Okay, let's try taking the f2 pawn. Okay. Oh, it's got to be this, right? Because if I just try checking here, they take, and I take, and then they pull this thing I was talking about. So I'm going to check with the f pawn. Well, it doesn't make sense to take with my queen now because their knight is still guarding that, so I think I have to take with the pawn now. Let's do that. Okay, this one's continuing. That's pretty rare. And now it's got to be this, doesn't it? And the king won't be able to go over there to protect the h2 square because my queen's going to be cutting off this whole diagonal. So it'll go over there and then my rook will be mate, I think. Oh, wow, it continued for a long time, but not here. One move away from mate, surely. Yeah, chess.com, you shouldn't put a mate in something on the puzzle theme if it's not actually going to go to checkmate, because this isn't checkmate. I mean, it might be, and I just missed it. But let's see if we get all the way over here. Yeah, it's still mate in one. They only have 2 legal moves. And then my rook to h2. Okay, so I had it figured out. The puzzle just decided that at this point there was no point. Why though? Because there's multiple mates, and they still haven't figured out how to program a puzzle board to accept 2 different mates. Because queen to h3 is also mate. Okay, but what if they went here? Then that's not the mate. There's only 1 mate in one. Yeah, that puzzle had no excuse for stopping when it did after going for so long and taking up so much of my time. Wow. Next. Still following the advice that I was given in the comment section, I did, immediately notice that I am up a piece here. So, that might be helpful to know. But because their queen is guarding that square, I do not have the mate on g2. I could just take their rook, but that undefends this pawn. And then I'm in trouble because their queen's coming down, I guess. Okay, well, what if I take down here with check? I'm pretty sure their only legal move would be to take back with the queen. Let's say I take their queen. They take my bishop back, and then I take their rook, and I'm up. I mean, they would check me, but I think I would be okay. I'm up. I would be up a rook at that point. Instead, right now, I'm up a bishop. I think if I follow that out, I would be up a rook. But, I mean, it involves giving away 2 pieces for the queen to start and getting a rook. So it's really just going up in exchange, isn't it? I'm giving up a bishop for a rook. But doesn't that improve my situation here? Because I would have 2 rooks, but they would go up the pawn. I would have to get out this way, I think. And then they would have to run away someplace with the rook, and then I would get their other pawn, and I would just be up a rook. Well, again, I have no idea. I'm not sure, but that looks pretty promising. And rather than being up a bishop, I think I'm going to end up a rook at the end of this. So fingers crossed, let's do it. Okay. Then it has to be taking with the bishop. And okay, they're going to get both the pawns. All right. I didn't anticipate that. That's better than what I thought. I thought they were going to take the bishop and I was going to get the rook and they were going to get this pawn. But this way they get both the pawns, I think. All right. And I'm guessing that it stopped there because maybe it doesn't matter which one of these that they do next. No, I think it does matter. Right? Because if they take the pawn and I come up, then where does the rook go? It has to run away someplace and then I save my bishop. I think they have to take the bishop first, but I need to know. Okay, I was right about that. It's slightly better for them to take the bishop first, but not that much better. And it does look like if they chose taking the pawn, then I'm going to be able to save the bishop by bringing it all the way back. Okay, well, that was pretty tough. Both of those were pretty tough for me. I don't know how much longer this streak is going to keep going. Next puzzle. Okay, I am going to look for checks first, which is to capture here. They have 1 legal move. I could check again with the pawn, but then they get back out over there, and I could check with the other rook, and then they would just move, and then I could check again, and then they could go back. No, they wouldn't go back because of this, so they would have to keep coming this way. Would I end up getting that rook eventually? That seems like a long way to go for that. Let's see. They move up here. I check them with the pawn. They have to go back out there. What about moving the pawn first? Because this would be mate if this pawn was already here. What can they do about that? They could come over and defend the h-pawn, because this gives them time to do what they probably should have done in the first place, which is defend the h-pawn. So that makes me want to check first. What if I check with this pawn first, the f-pawn? They still have to go out, but now they can't come this way because the f-pawn is guarding that square. So let me think about that. They come this way, I check with the f-pawn, they get out, come back, they have to go between because I still have a rook on the d file and a rook on the f file. Then I could check here, but then they have 2 options to get to the d file. I am probably missing something. I very often am, but it does look like if I play either one of those pawns first, then my opponent gets to defend the h-pawn. So that makes me think I should take it first, but I can't figure out how to stop this. I think I did figure out that the f-pawn is probably slightly better because that prevents them from coming around later, but it doesn't prevent them from just going here. And then I think I calculated it doesn't matter which rook I bring back over there, that they can still get it, not there, they can still get out to the e file. So I don't think it's advancing one of my pawns. There's going to be trouble over there. Right now that pawn is hanging, but I don't think advancing it helps anything. For a brief second, I thought about trying to interpose between their rook and that pawn, but if they take and then I take, then they just move that pawn forward where it's protected. And then if I go over to get after their a pawn, they just take my a pawn and protect their a pawn. And they have a kingside majority over here. I think I could pull off a draw at least against a human by trying that move, but pulling off a draw is almost never the point of a puzzle. I think I had that one time. Anyway, what am I missing? Let's back up. Are there any other checks after this, and here? Besides putting a rook on f7, are there any other checks at that point? Because this wouldn't be a check because their pawn is still in the way. My other pawn can't come check them. It's too difficult for me to visualize where the pieces are going to be at that point. I need to work on that. I need to practice it. I'm not sure how other than continuing to try this. I'm going to take that pawn. If it's wrong, we'll find out why on the analysis board. Okay. Wait, I see it now. I couldn't see it earlier, but I see it now. After I play f4 and they go through here, I have this check. I don't know why I didn't see that earlier, but for some reason I was thinking those two rooks needed to protect each other, but they don't now because the king isn't up there. And even after I check here and go there, the king's not close enough to my h rook, so this rook doesn't have to stay on the 7th rank. I can check here. That's all cut off. This will all be cut off, and my pawn's cutting off that. So I think that's mate. Oh my goodness. And I don't think you can see it. It's hidden right behind my view here, but this only has a pass rate of 26.9%. So I feel really good about getting it. But that's what I couldn't see earlier because my brain was locked in on those two rooks staying on that same rank to protect each other. And I wasn't seeing that this check was a possibility. Sometimes that's all it takes is making the first move and then I can see the third move. But from the beginning, I couldn't see the third move. I could see the second one. So it seems like so far my brain is stuck on seeing just two moves in advance. Because to see the third one, I have to make the first one, and then I'm seeing still two moves in advance. I'm working on that, but at least I'm aware that that's one of my problems. Next. Well, one thing is evident here. The regular checklist doesn't always, make any difference in an endgame, especially when there's only pawns, because I don't have to look for checks here. There's no possibility of checks. So the checklist changes. And I haven't yet perfected my endgame checklist. It's still kind of floating in my head, but I think one thing that has to be on there is who can win the pawn race, or can I win the pawn race, however you want to phrase it. Because if I come toward their pawn and they go forward and I come forward, they could bring their king to protect it, but then I can get in front of it. So I think I can win that. But what if I come here and they bring their king, and I come here and they bring their king? Then I guess I could get in front of it, but they can move it, and then my king is stuck there. And if I move my king at any point, they bring their king, and then I can't get in the way of the pawn again. Okay, so I guess the answer is I can catch that pawn. Can they catch my pawns? Because they're ahead on this pawn race so far. And when they promote, I'm going to be in check if I don't move my king. So if I just move a pawn right now, they're going to move their pawn. And I'm going to move my pawn. They're going to move their pawn. I'm going to move my pawn. And they're going to check me with the queen. And then, and then I lose. So I don't think it's a pawn race here, because if we just move pawns, they win. So I think it has to be a king move. But then I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they move their pawn, guess I get next to it. And if they move their king, then I get in front of their pawn. Okay, what if I come toward the pawn and they move their king first? Is that the one we already talked about? I come here, they come here. I can still get in front of the pawn. And then they can't catch mine. But what if I move the king and they go toward mine? And then I come here and they go toward mine and I get in front of their pawn and they go toward mine. And then they can catch it. But if they try, I'll get theirs, but they're going to end up getting both of mine, and that's a draw. So I think what I have to do is move my king, and if they move their pawn, I have to keep coming. But if I move my king and they come this way, then I start moving my pawn, because then I can still catch theirs. Oh, and at the end, this one is probably going to have the theme simple. For some reason, all of these have the theme simple, but it's not simple to me. I'm going to bring my king. Okay, well, it wasn't simple. And it didn't have any themes. And the pass rate's over 50%. Okay, they did that. This apparently is from an actual game. At least there are moves listed all the way out to the end. No, it says, here it says custom position, but then why are there this many moves? Wait, is the puzzle that long? Oh, good grief. Only one move is to move my pawn. Wait, what? Didn't we determine that I can't win that pawn race? Says their best move is king to h4, but in this move list, they played king to g5. But why wouldn't they move the pawn? Because then I will play e3. Oh, wait, let's go back. We'll click retry puzzle here. So if I play this, okay, they're going to bring their king. Is it because they know I can catch the pawn, so I keep going? Okay, now they move that, and now I come toward it, right? Well, now they can't catch my pawn, but I can catch theirs. So I take that, and that would have been the end of the puzzle. Okay, and the theme is passed pawns. Well, for once, the theme of passed pawns is accurate. At least it didn't say simple. That would have been insulting to me. What did I miss, though? What did I not understand about this? Oh, and I'm almost out of time. And I feel like my brain is almost just about to grasp the concept of this puzzle, but it's like a ghost, and I can't quite grab it. It's there. I can sense it. What's the point of this? Oh, that's frustrating. I don't even know what to call that feeling where you just about have it, but you don't know what to grab. Is the point the fact that I get a free pawn move in this pawn race because even though I can't win the pawn race, if they try it, I can catch it. So I don't have to try to go first. I think that maybe that's it. Let's play this out. What was it again? I keep moving that until they move their pawn. Then I go, then I go, then I go here. And then I take that. Well, that one was pretty obvious there. That didn't need to be in the puzzle. Back here, the problem... Oh no, sorry, they have to make their move first. My problem of going here is king to g6. Really? Well, I didn't anticipate that would be one of the things that they would do. I thought they would come forward, but it says if they come forward, I'm winning again. What does g6 do? Oh, it gets out of the way of this pawn. And now my best move is still c5. But I thought I was heading over here, right? Nope, because now they defend it. And even if I get in front of it, they come here. And now if I push this... Oh, I thought they would have checked me, but it says no, they would just... What? They would just go back. That's what Stockfish would do. King to f6. Oh, wow. My brain's exhausted. If you made it this far, thank you. I'll see you next time.